The Courage to be Disliked. Written and published by Ngasline. Throughout your life, you've learned that being liked is a positive thing. It's not good to be disliked. It's straightforward, isn't it? But what if this belief is what keeps you stuck? Could your strong desire for approval be the hidden barrier preventing you from living your true life? Here's a straightforward fact. Many great people throughout history were not liked by a lot of people. Every important change in history started with someone ready to face disapproval. Living an authentic life means having the bravery to be disliked. In these 5 important lessons, you'll learn why being okay with others not liking you can lead to greater freedom, and how this simple change can improve all areas of your life. I want to tell you something that may surprise you. Lesson 1. The Prison of Approval. Why wanting everyone to like you is self-made torture. Picture constructing a prison, one cell at a time, using your own hands to place each brick. Every time you look for approval, you add another brick. Every time you change how you act to make others happy, you create another barrier. Living in constant pursuit of universal approval creates a situation where we trap ourselves. We become both the prisoner and the builder of our own limitations. Wanting everyone to like you seems harmless at the beginning. We convince ourselves that it's about kindness, goodness, or acceptance. This pursuit isn't just pointless, it's a way we hurt ourselves that gradually takes away our true identity. Consider this. There are more than 7 billion people on Earth, each having their own values, beliefs, and biases. It is impossible to make everyone happy, and that should free us from trying, but we keep trying anyway. This prison is especially harmful because it is not seen. The walls we build from seeking approval come from our own fears, insecurities, and misunderstandings about what it means to live a valuable life, rather than from physical limits. When we hold back our true thoughts to prevent conflict, when we agree when we really want to disagree, and when we follow what others expect instead of staying true to our own values, we strengthen these unseen barriers. This imprisonment is very expensive. It shows up as ongoing anxiety because we keep watching how others respond. It appears as decision paralysis, when we fear making choices that could let someone down. It shows in the tiredness of trying to be different versions of ourselves to meet what others expect. It sadly leads to losing our true voice, the special viewpoint and expression that only we can share with the world. Think about how much mental effort goes into always checking and changing things. During a conversation, we often focus on analyzing every word before we speak instead of being present and genuine. We're not only having an experience, we're also trying to control how others see that experience. This split awareness is tiring and stops us from fully participating in life. This prison, meant to promote connection and acceptance, ironically stops real relationships from developing. When we always seek approval from others, it becomes hard for them to truly know and connect with who we really are. To truly connect with others, we need to be open and honest. However, it's hard to do that when we are focused on trying to please everyone. One of the saddest parts of this self-made prison is how it affects our potential. Every significant accomplishment, every valuable innovation, and every crucial social change started with someone who was ready to be unpopular. Making progress means questioning what is normal, and questioning what is normal often leads to disapproval. When we seek approval from everyone, we not only hold back our own growth but also reduce our chance to make a real difference in the world. We can break down our self-made prisons because we have the power to do so. The first step is to recognize how our desire for universal approval has restricted our freedom. The next step is to recognize an important fact. Being disliked is not only acceptable, but it is often essential for leading a genuine and fulfilling life. This doesn't mean being intentionally hostile. It means being honest about who we are and what we believe, even if that honesty isn't always well received. When we start to take down these walls, we find something amazing. The ability to be disliked is really the ability to be ourselves. In this freedom, we often discover that we draw in deeper, more genuine connections with people who value us for our true selves, not for any masks we might wear. The way to free yourself from seeking approval begins with a straightforward yet meaningful question. If you knew that some people would not like you regardless of your actions, how would you decide to live? The answer to this question shows you how to live your true life, a life where you are not trapped by the need for everyone's approval, but instead can freely express who you really are. Lesson 2. Your freedom lies in other people's opinions about you not being your business. Have you ever thought about how much time you spend thinking about what others think of you? People often have a strange habit of being aware of what others might think, say, or criticize. We hold on to these imagined views like a heavy backpack, allowing them to affect our choices, guide our actions, and often restrict our possibilities. Here's a new idea. What others think of you is really not your concern. This isn't just a catchy phrase. It's a deep truth that, when understood and accepted, can change your whole life. Consider this. Every opinion that someone has about you is just in their mind. It is formed by what they have gone through, affected by their biases, seen through their worries, and shaped by their personal doubts. Their opinion reflects more on them than it does on you. We often view these opinions as if they are true facts about our value. Freedom starts when we realize that we can't control how others perceive us. No matter how carefully we try to shape how others see us, it often doesn't work because we can't control how they understand things. People might misunderstand your best intentions or criticize your biggest successes. This isn't a negative perspective. It's a practical one that, interestingly, brings a lot of freedom. Think about the energy you use to deal with these difficult perceptions. Choosing social media posts carefully, thinking through conversations beforehand, and changing how you act to meet what you believe others want. Now think about focusing all that energy on truly living your life, chasing your goals, and being your true self. The difference is huge. Keeping others' opinions separate from how you see yourself helps create a strong boundary that keeps your mind at ease. When you realize that what others think of you is their concern, not yours, you make room for yourself to live freely, without always needing approval or validation from outside. This doesn't mean being uncaring or ignoring others. It means recognizing the important difference between taking feedback into account and letting others' opinions dictate your actions. This change in thinking really shows its strength when faced with criticism or disapproval. When you realize that what others think doesn't concern you, criticism doesn't hurt as much. You can look at feedback clearly, using what helps you and ignoring what doesn't, without it affecting how you see yourself. This is real emotional independence, being able to stay true to yourself even when others have different opinions and feelings. This isn't only about criticism, it's also about the bigger idea of personal sovereignty. When you stop worrying about what others think, you take back the power to define who you are. You stop depending on what others think to feel good about yourself. You take charge of your life story, deciding your direction based on what you value, what you want, and what feels right for you. With this freedom, there are responsibilities to consider. Once you stop feeling the pressure to satisfy others or live up to their standards, build a solid sense of direction within yourself. Understand your beliefs, your values, and the type of life you wish to build. Self-discovery happens when you stop worrying about what others think. It's interesting that when you stop worrying about what others think, you can build more genuine relationships. When you don't worry about how others see you, you can be more real in your conversations. People are attracted to this genuine nature, forming bonds based on your true self instead of who you believe they want you to be. Keep in mind, this isn't about ignoring what others think or acting like their opinions aren't there. It's about placing them where they belong, outside your main sense of self. Just like clouds move across the sky, let opinions come and go in your mind without letting them shape your reality. You can be free by realizing that others can have their own opinions, but you don't have to let them affect you. Lesson 3. The courage to choose freedom or recognition. Life presents us with many crossroads, but perhaps none is more significant than the choice between freedom and recognition. It's a choice we face daily, often without realizing it. And our decision shapes not just our actions, but the very fabric of our existence. The truth is stark yet liberating. You cannot have both complete freedom and universal recognition. Understanding this truth is the first step toward authentic living. Consider what it means to have true freedom, the ability to act according to your values, to speak your truth, to pursue your genuine interests, and to live life on your own terms. Now contrast this with the pursuit of recognition, which requires constant adjustment to others' expectations, perpetual alignment with societal norms, and endless calibration of your actions to maintain approval. These two paths diverge fundamentally, and pretending they can coexist perfectly is a comforting lie we tell ourselves. The desire for recognition is deeply human. From our earliest days, we learn that approval brings rewards, smiles, praise, opportunities, and connections. This evolutionary programming served us well in tribal societies where exile meant death. But in today's world, this same programming can become a cage, limiting our potential and stifling our authentic expression. The irony is that in pursuing universal recognition, we often become less recognizable to ourselves. The cost of choosing recognition over freedom is paid in small installments, making it easy to ignore until the debt becomes crushing. It shows up in the dreams we abandon because they don't fit others' expectations, in the opinions we silence because they might cause disagreement, in the paths we don't take because they deviate from accepted norms. Each compromise seems small in the moment, but together they form a life lived in service of others' approval rather than our own truth. Freedom, on the other hand, comes with its own price, the courage to be disliked. When you choose freedom, you must accept that some people will disapprove of your choices. They might question your decisions, criticize your path, or even distance themselves from you. This isn't just a possibility, it's a certainty. The question isn't whether choosing freedom will cost you some recognition, but whether you're willing to pay that price for the ability to live authentically. The challenge lies in understanding that this isn't a one-time choice, but a series of daily decisions. Each situation presents us with the same fundamental question. Will I choose freedom or recognition in this moment? Will I speak my truth or say what others want to hear? Will I follow my path or conform to expectations? The courage to consistently choose freedom over recognition is what separates authentic living from mere existence. But here's the beautiful paradox. When you consistently choose freedom over recognition, you often gain a different kind of recognition, one based on your authentic self rather than your carefully curated image. This recognition is deeper, more meaningful, and more satisfying because it comes from people who appreciate you for who you truly are, not for who you pretend to be. The path to freedom requires developing a strong internal compass. You must know your values, understand your priorities, and be clear about what matters to you. Without this internal clarity, the pull of recognition becomes irresistible. It's like trying to navigate without a map. You'll inevitably end up following someone else's directions. The choice between freedom and recognition also reveals an important truth about happiness. Many people believe that achieving recognition will bring happiness, but true happiness comes from the freedom to be yourself. Recognition might bring temporary pleasure, but it's a fleeting satisfaction that requires constant maintenance. Freedom, while sometimes lonely, brings a deep-seated contentment that comes from living in alignment with your true self. Think of it like this. Recognition is like renting happiness from others, while freedom is like owning it outright. When you rent, you're always at the mercy of the landlord's demands. When you own, you can make the space truly yours. The choice between freedom and recognition is ultimately a choice between authentic living and perpetual performance. Remember, choosing freedom doesn't mean becoming deliberately antagonistic or disregarding others' feelings entirely. It means being willing to face disapproval when staying true to yourself requires it. It means understanding that your life is yours to live, and while others may have opinions about your choices, the final decision and responsibility rests with you. Lesson 4. Unfree living. Are you choosing your prison? Freedom is an interesting concept. We all say we want it, but our everyday decisions often tell a different tale. Every day we make choices that can either increase our freedom or limit it, in both clear and subtle ways. One surprising fact about living without freedom is that we often create our own limits. We choose these restrictions so carefully without even realizing that we are constructing a prison for ourselves. The first indication of living without freedom shows up in how we make decisions. When every decision starts with, "What will others think?" instead of "What do I really want?" we have given up our freedom. It's as if there's a hidden group in our minds deciding on everything we do. We get so used to this inner democracy that we forget we can be our own ruler. Think about what you do every day and how you do it. How many of your choices are truly yours, and how many are influenced by what others expect, what you think you should do, or the worry about what others might think? Are the clothes you wear, the career you choose, the opinions you share or hold back, and the dreams you dare to dream really your own decisions? Or are they compromises to keep others happy? The sadness of living without freedom comes from how slowly it happens. No one loses their freedom all at once. It occurs through a number of small give-ups, each one looking unimportant by itself. We agree when we really want to disagree. We don't speak up, even when we have something to share. We take routes set by others rather than creating our own paths. Every compromise feels okay at the time, but when added up, they create the walls of a prison we built ourselves. This prison is especially harmful because it feels comfortable. It's like a nicely decorated room. It has some benefits: people's approval, a false sense of safety, and the ease of fitting in. Following set paths is simpler than creating new ones. It's better to agree with common views than to share differing opinions. This comfort can hold us back, making us unsure about pursuing real freedom, even when we see our limitations. Once you know what to look for, the signs of unfree living are all around you. Are you always looking for approval, whether directly or indirectly, for choices that should be yours to make? Do you find yourself needing to explain your decisions to others, even if those decisions don't impact them? Are you keeping relationships because you feel you have to instead of because you really want to? These are all signs of selecting prison instead of freedom. A clear sign of living without freedom is the ongoing emotional tension that many people feel. This tension arises from the difference between our true selves and the personas we create to seek approval. It can be tiring to always watch how we act to fit what others want, but a lot of us do this so often that we don't even see it as something we choose to do. Becoming aware is the first step to freedom. We need to first see how we pick a life that isn't truly free. Recognizing this can be tough and even hurtful, as it makes us face our part in our own confinement. It's simpler to point fingers at outside factors for our lack of freedom instead of recognizing our own decisions in the situation. Awareness by itself isn't sufficient. We also need to grasp why we opt for unfreedom. It often comes from fear. Fear of being rejected, fear of failing, fear of the unknown, fear of having to take responsibility. Understanding these fears is important because it shows a key truth. The barriers we've created aren't keeping us safe from danger. They're keeping us from truly living. The strongest question we can ask ourselves is, what would I change if I didn't fear disapproval? The answer shows the difference between what we truly want and the choices we are making now. It clearly illustrates how we are selecting unfreedom and, even more importantly, guides us toward liberation. To break free, we need to do more than see our own limits. We must have the courage to choose differently. It involves being open to criticism, managing the unknown, and taking complete ownership of our lives. It means realizing that real freedom isn't just about having no limits, but about being able to make our own choices thoughtfully and intentionally. When you make decisions out of fear of what others think instead of what you truly want, you're limiting yourself. When you hold back your truth to keep the peace, you are just making those barriers stronger. We have the power to choose both our limitations and our liberation. It starts with a clear change, choosing what feels right for us instead of what others expect. Lesson 5. The power of being disliked, a path to authentic living. Being disliked might be one of the most feared human experiences. Yet within this fear lies an unexpected gateway to freedom. The power of being disliked isn't about cultivating disapproval or being intentionally difficult. It's about discovering the profound liberation that comes when we no longer let the fear of being disliked control our lives. This counterintuitive path to authentic living begins with a simple but challenging realization. Being disliked is not just okay. It's often necessary for living a meaningful life. Think about any person throughout history who made a significant impact or brought about meaningful change. From Socrates to Martin Luther King Jr., from Marie Curie to Steve Jobs, these people were often deeply disliked by many during their time. They faced criticism, rejection, and sometimes outright hostility. Yet their willingness to be disliked became the very foundation of their ability to contribute something unique to the world. This isn't coincidental. It's a fundamental pattern of authentic living. The fear of being disliked acts like a filter on our authentic expression. We filter our words, our actions, our dreams, and even our thoughts through the lens of potential disapproval. But what if we could see being disliked not as a threat to avoid, but as a compass pointing toward our truth? Every time we face disapproval for being authentic, we're receiving confirmation that we're living according to our own values rather than others' expectations. Consider how this fear manifests in daily life. We hesitate to express unpopular opinions, even when we believe them to be true. We avoid pursuing unconventional dreams because they might invite skepticism. We maintain relationships that drain us because ending them might make us temporarily disliked. Each of these compromises seems small, but together they create a life shaped by fear rather than authenticity. The power of being disliked reveals itself most clearly in our relationships. When we're willing to be disliked, we create space for genuine connections. Rather than attracting people through carefully managed impressions, we draw others to us through authentic expression. The relationships that form in this space are deeper and more meaningful because they're based on who we really are, not who we pretend to be. Being willing to be disliked doesn't mean being insensitive or deliberately provocative. Instead, it means developing a healthy relationship with disapproval. It means understanding that being disliked is often the price of being authentic, making meaningful changes, or standing up for what we believe in. When we accept this, disapproval loses its power over us. Think of being disliked as a muscle that strengthens with use. The first experiences of disapproval might feel threatening, but each time we survive being disliked while staying true to ourselves, we grow stronger. We begin to understand that others' disapproval doesn't diminish our worth or change our reality. This understanding becomes a foundation for genuine confidence. Not the fragile confidence that depends on constant approval, but the solid confidence that comes from knowing we can handle disapproval. The most powerful aspect of being willing to be disliked is how it transforms our relationship with ourselves. When we no longer organize our lives around avoiding disapproval, we can finally hear our own voice clearly. We can distinguish between what we truly want and what we've been conditioned to want. This clarity becomes a compass for authentic living. However, embracing the power of being disliked doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process of building trust with ourselves. Start small. Express a minor disagreement, make a choice that others might question, pursue an interest that seems unusual. Each step builds confidence in our ability to handle disapproval and strengthens our commitment to authentic living. Being willing to be disliked is different from wanting to be disliked. The goal isn't to maximize disapproval, but to stop letting the fear of disapproval control our choices. When we reach this state, we achieve a kind of freedom that no external approval could ever provide, the freedom to be fully ourselves. The ultimate paradox is that when we embrace the possibility of being disliked, we often become more likable, not to everyone, but to the people who matter most. Our authenticity attracts others who value genuine expression. Our courage inspires others to live more authentically. In this way, the willingness to be disliked becomes not just a path to personal freedom, but a gift to others who are seeking their own path to authentic living. Final lesson: the courage to be disliked. The toughest prison to break free from is the one that's invisible. The prison of trying to get everyone's approval is just that, unseen but total. Now you can see it. True freedom comes not from trying to make everyone like you, but from having the bravery to be okay with being disliked. Wanting approval can hold you back. What others think is not your concern. Every time you say yes to everyone else's approval, you are saying no to being true to yourself. Every time you pick recognition instead of freedom, you're selecting your own cage. It's perfectly fine to be disliked. In fact, it's often important for having a meaningful life. Begin with something manageable. Select one area to focus on being true to yourself, even if it leads to others not liking you. See what occurs when you pick freedom instead of seeking approval. The real question isn't if people will dislike you, they will. Will you allow that to prevent you from living your truth?